Right, Bob. In part one, you mentioned that Josh Gifford was very, very supportive of you, and guaranteed your job when you got better, not if you got better. Um, so you know that must have played quite a big part in you.
Oh, I did. I can remember him. I'm in hospital in London to begin with, and he came up and saw me and saw how rough I looked and felt actually, and he knew I was worried about my job and everything, and he said, don't worry, you get yourself fit, the job's there when you come back. And I don't think he ever believed I would come back, to be honest. He told me that after, but he kept his word and he gave me a chance, I must admit. And the best thing I did was I went to America to get fit, because I used to ride over there every summer. And I wouldn't say I wouldn't have got fit here in England, but I think I got fitter quicker there because the weather was warm, and I love the heat, I must admit. And so I had my first rides over there. My first ride back was for Jonathan Shepherd, and a horse called Double Reefed, and he won a flat race. Well, it was like our bumpers, but it wasn't a bumper, if you know what I mean. Over 1.5 miles, and I won there. But looking back, I think it was on a steering job, let's be honest. And then I had a ride over in a novice chase, another horse. My first ride back over fences, that finished third at Monmouth. Then I rode Double Reefed in his first run over fences at Saratoga, and he won. I won another couple on him, and basically he was a top class horse. He ended up being champion racehorse in America jumping. He won over $2 million, and I was lucky. I was part of that. He started over fences, and I've always appreciated George Strawbridge giving me a chance. And after I left Saratoga, I came back to England and to ride for Josh, and Josh kept his word, and fair enough, I think my second ride won for him. And then things went wrong. The horses got the virus, and let's be honest, first person to always get the blame is the jockey, and the owners didn't really want me, and Josh couldn't argue with them, and I was getting no rides, I promise you, from not just from Josh, from anybody. For about 3 months I was lucky to get 5 rides in 3 months type of thing. And I can always remember December came round, and it was the first big Ascot meeting, and Josh always had runners at Ascot, and I was very lucky round Ascot. And he rang me and said, 2 of your old horses come back after as long as you've been out, actually, which they had. A horse called Henry Bishop and Kaibo, and 2 big races, both went and won. So I went from a down and out to the Golden Boy in an hour and a half. But going to the races that day, I always remembered, if things don't go right, I'm giving up. Thankfully, I went to Ascot that day and had the 2 winners. And from that day, December to February the 13th, I only had 29 rides because racing was being off from snow and everything. Out of those 29 rides, I rode 16 winners. So things weren't going bad. And then February the 13th came around, and Aldaniti came back to the track. And I can always remember, I was so confident then, and he'd been off as long as myself. And I can remember picking up the Racing Post and saw he was 66 to 1 for the National, because the weights had just come out that morning, and 16 to 1 for the Whitbread Trial that day. As you know, jockeys aren't allowed to bet, but mothers are. She had a few quid on him, but 66s and a bit more on at 16 to 1. Absolutely bolted up in the Whitbread Trial. As I went by the post, Ladbrokes made me 16 to 1, second favourite for the National. So Mum did a lot of good business that day.
I just want just a couple little things about Josh Gifford before we move on.
Yeah.
I'm told that he was very supportive, in fact so supportive that he turned up when you were still in hospital with a bottle of whiskey for you. but ended up drinking it himself. Is that a true story?
That is true. He knew I didn't drink whiskey anyway, so no, Josh, absolutely fantastic. As you said, he come with a bottle of champagne and whiskey, you name it. God knows what he thought I was going to be drinking it. And Nick Embricos came with him as well. So, it was great. He did pop in and see me a few times, and which was great. And but when you're lying having chemotherapy, and as rough it was those days, you didn't want visitors, to be honest. No. I can remember Monty Court used to pop in and see me every day because he lived just down the road from the Marsden, brought me the Racing Post, and he knew me by then that, I'd just say to him, just clear off, Monty.
No, I was also told that you said that sometimes the owners said they didn't want you to ride. There were a couple of incidences where they said to Josh, we don't want Bob to ride, and Bob said, when are you picking your horse up?
Yes, Josh was very, very loyal. He really was, he wanted his own jockeys on horses, always did all through his career, and he was very loyal to me, and which I do appreciate, and I think maybe now things are more difficult for trainers, but those days, if Josh said somebody was riding it, they rode it, and the owners stood by him as well.
Now, going to the cancer, so you've been through the chemotherapy, you got the all clear. I suppose that's in inverted commas. I mean, how long was it before you were confident that it was all clear?
Oh, basically, then I was having monthly checkups. Then it extended to 3 monthly checkups and then yearly checkups. I still have a yearly checkup now. So, they do keep an eye on me, which I'm very, very fortunate. And the last 2 have been online. God knows how you can check somebody online, but they do. But, they have me back in occasionally.
Now, that there was the chemotherapy, so we've said it was quite harsh. One of the side effects was you got numb hands and feet, and there's a scene in the film where a nail goes into your foot and you didn't realise. Now, was that artistic license, or did that actually happen?
That did actually happen. I was at Burley Cox's in America at the time, and I had no feelings. And Burley, I was always walking around barefooted if I wasn't riding, really try to get the feeling back. And it was a terrible sensation. Have you ever tried walking like ice blocks on your feet? Your balance, nothing's really right, it's an eerie feeling. I just can't explain it. And fair enough, I've got it virtually, I have it 95% back now. And it was the same with my hands, I could hold things I wouldn't know I was holding, and but that was just a side effect of the treatment, and it wasn't just me that went through it. An awful lot of other people did.
Yeah, but they weren't jockeys.
No,
their hands and feet were quite
well,
important
that's it.
for the
As
job.
you say, hands and feet are the most important, especially hands and everything. And I knew what I was doing, but you just, you need a little bit of feeling with your hands, especially with race horses. Through the reins, it goes to the head and everything, and basically. It works together, and you're out there with a horse to work together.
Was it something you were sort of warned about that you could expect to sort of happen, and also you could expect to clear up, or was it a bit 50-50?
Yeah, the doctors said it would happen. They said, the treatment was so new, that was the problem, and they didn't know what the side effects were going to be, because I was one of the first ones to have this. It was called the Heinhorn treatment. He started off in America, and they learned a little bit about it, and the Marsden got it, and they didn't know what the side effects were going to be like later on. And but losing the hands and feet feeling is a funny sensation. I never want it to happen again, put it that way.
Do you know if it still is a side effect for people these days?
I think it's a little bit of a side effect, but they're using better drugs now and less toxic, and better anti-sickness drugs and everything about it. So, and the cure rate, as I said, it's gone from about 30% to 96%. So things are going the right direction.
And how do you remember how long it took for you to, to sort of get most of your feeling back?
Well, I suppose it was definitely 6 months when I've had my first ride in a race from finishing the treatment, and I'd say I'd have 50% feeling then, and then it just gradually came back, and I kept going running and everything like that, tried to get it back and doing things with my hands, and you know, it came back gradually, but you know, basically it's about 95% fully back now.
And you enjoyed the warmth. So being a national hunt jockey isn't the ideal thing. Was it ever considered to be an option to stay in America and continue to ride over there for a living, for full time?
Yes, it was. I really thought about it, I must admit, and as you know, I love the warm weather, and sometimes I regret, well, you know, after I won the national, I thought, do I stay in England or do I go back to America? And sometimes I regret not going back there.
Now, you said that you had a bit of a fallow sort of period before you rode that double at Ascot. How were your fellow jockeys towards you when you came back initially?
Oh, they were great. You know, it's a great bunch of people, jockeys, and you know, when I rode my first winner back, everybody was delighted. But you know, somebody gets injured. Nowadays, the other jockeys are the first people to go and check you're all right. And when you ride a winner, you go back in the weighing room, everybody's happy for you. And you know, when I rode that first winner in America, they really looked after me. I must admit, we had some night out that night. And when I came back to England, you know, physicist, I suppose, was my first winner back for Josh. And that was Josh's 500 training success. And so we did have a night out that night, and I put a bit of weight on again and had to take it off the next day.
Now, you said you were very confident about Aldaniti winning the Grand National, but like you said, it was a 66-1 chance when the weights came out, and it was still the race, you know, with the fearsome fences that people remember from their youths. Why were you so confident?
I couldn't see him getting beaten, funny enough. You know, he was a class horse in a way, but he had so many leg problems. And, you know, I'd been third in a Gold Cup, second in a Scottish National. He broke a bone when I would have won the Hennessy on him, and he only got beat a length and a half, I think. And he was a good horse, but he was always unsound. He broke down 3 or 4 times and kept coming back and win first time out. And his legs weren't the greatest, I suppose, but I think he wasn't the best horse to himself because he used to pull very hard. And I think that was the thing against him. And he had a high-ish knee action and hit the ground pretty hard. And but the only way he won the national was Josh Gifford, because Josh had never sat on him before that year. You know, he had so many horses, he couldn't sit on every one. And he rode him out one morning, and I said to Pete Double, who looked after him, this horse is thick. I'm going to have to ride him out myself. And he did. And Josh had hands like silk, I promise you. He could get anything to relax. And if he hadn't ridden him out every day, there's no way he'd have won the national. He wouldn't have never got to the national. And, you know, when he went to Ascot and bolted up the first time, then Josh, I did school him over 2 fences. We only dare school him over 2 fences the day before Ascot because his legs were so bad. And we never schooled him again. And went to Aintree. I only sat on him once for the TV, and we took him to Guy Harwood's and had a little bit of a canter there. And then that was it. And I sat on him the morning of the national, and that's the only times I'd sat on him. Then in the afternoon went and won on him.